Comes from Kathy. Kathy says, Latham certainly doesn't have clean hands, but it's hard to understand why the state brought this case. I wonder if Durham, being a corrections officer, had anything to do with it. John, I'll ask you, do you think that might have had something to do with it?
You know, you sometimes see a little bit of deference to that blue line. We've got a wrongful death case in Florida that they wouldn't investigate the killer, and his father was an officer. Sometimes, you know, you do get a little deference, but I think we talked about it earlier that this was a high-profile case, and they weren't just going to let it go.
Yeah, I think it had more to do with publicity in this particular case. But certainly there's a symbiotic relationship between prosecutors' offices and the police force, and there is some deference given from time to time. It just happens. Our next comment comes from another Kathy. This Kathy says when he went into the house, he could have stayed there. But no, he goes and gets a knife. Call police. I think he deserves some jail time. And I think, Eric, that's where this jury, if they struggle at all with this case, that's where they're going to struggle. He went into the house. He did get a knife. He came out. Perhaps there's a juror or two who could believe that that was an aggressive action on his part. But then when I think about what the judge, the charge he gave them, I don't know how anyone could really think that.
Sure, you know, and I think there's often a difference between what a person should have done and what they could do legally. You know, here, maybe it was more prudent for Zachary Latham to stay there and call the police, but legally speaking, at least according to the defense, he was entitled to stand his ground. He's in his house, he's in his garage, and he's entitled to stand there and not back down, and especially when he's got two dudes coming after him. And so, yeah, I think there's a big difference oftentimes between what a person should have done and what they could have done legally under the law.
And defense made an excellent point in their closing argument when they show when the confrontation happens, he's actually 1 foot in the garage, 1 foot in the driveway, and all that is considered his home. So he never technically, even though he went in the house and got a knife, he didn't go to them. He stood in an area where he does seem to have a right to protect himself. All right, our last comment comes from a viewer on Twitter who says, I did not realize until today's closing that William Durham Sr. had alcohol in his system at the time of his death, and he was a member of the law enforcement community, a corrections officer. So Durham Sr. should have known not to escalate. And that's an interesting question, John, because he was, you know, he might get some deference, but also he might be held to a higher standard by the jury.
That's exactly right. It kind of reminds me in a little way of Ahmaud Arbery and how that kind of progressed to a point. And yeah, the people tied to law enforcement should know better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your insights tonight. John Phillips, Eric Faddis, once again, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Folks, coming up next, we're going to review the 3 things that we've learned today and the cases we've been covering literally from coast to coast here on Courtside.